Hello, I am Ben Hart, Artistic Director of Seacoast Repertory Theatre, and I have with me the writer and directors of our season opener for our 2021 season. I love saying that. Our Soul Series main stage, Stokely and Martin and Nevaeh's brother. I have with me the incomparable Najee Brown, the curator of our Soul Series and the author of both of these shows. I have Sandy Kaddy, the director of Stokely and Martin, and Denise Gordon, director of Nevaeh's brother. So, Sandy, what is Stokely and Martin about?
Stokely and Martin takes place in Dr. King's basement, actually. It's the Cleve, it's Willie Ricks, and Stokely, of course, and Dr. King, and they're all talking about Black Power and trying to convince Dr. King which direction he needs to go towards. So they're all having a conversation after dinner, which they generally do have this. This isn't a new thing, and he wanted to talk to all of them about Black Power. Why do they feel that way?
Fabulous. Yeah. My favorite part about the show is that it was a real conversation, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it truly was.
So cool. Denise, what is Nevaeh's brother about?
Nevaeh's brother is about a sister and brother who live in New York City, and it's basically the best way that I can describe it, it really speaks to the black male of today, the black male of 2019, 2021, the fear that in which they live in, and it's about a sister who's very much in control and about a brother who's very much not in control. But at the end of the play, it switches. He's very much in control, and she's very much not in control.
There's such a great balance between the two pieces, too. There's so much thought and conversation in the first piece, and then the second one is an emotional roller coaster. It really is. So, Najee, in writing Stokely and Martin, which, again, these were real historical conversations that were had, and you even spoke with someone who was in the room for some of those conversations, and yet you're also a playwright creating a piece where you have to take a little license to. So what was it like writing about something that actually happened in history?
Okay. So this was a different process for me because all of the other plays, the 4 other plays that I wrote, were the previous plays that I wrote were from my own mind, right? But this one, it took a certain amount of studying and listening to the point where I had to know every single man and what they said. So like if I had a conversation with Martin about PlayStation 2, what would Martin Luther King say about PlayStation 2? That's how well I had to get to know him, to understand what he would say in every topic. So it took months of studying, months of digging into documentaries, watching everything that was happening around that time. What was the school systems like?
Right.
What was segregated here? What was New York like at that time? What was Detroit like at that time? What was California like at that time? What else was happening? Who was popular in terms of musicians? And like getting to know 1967 to understanding that was so strongly that I could just sit down and the words could flow out, and that's what happened. With the characters that I normally write that are not historical, I get to know them personally, like to the point where I can feel their pain, and then they speak through me. But I had to this was more of a spiritual experience. I had to call on Dr. King. A lot of things that happened was getting those 2 paintings that you see, on the poster.
Yeah.
When I paid to get them painted. Once I got them painted, I hung them up in my room and I sat under them and I wrote under them. I listened to speeches while I was writing. I listened to Dr. King's favorite songs while I was writing, and I just tried to call on him as much as possible.
That's so fascinating because that poster feels so spiritual. It's like you would see that in a church or something. So it's fascinating that you used it in that way. Now, so Nevaeh's brother is a contemporary story, a piece of fiction. How does it relate to Stokely and Martin? Stokely and Martin is Act 1. It's a 1-act play. Nevaeh's brother is also a 1-act play. The second act of this evening of theater. How do the two relate?
Time. I think time. If you're asking me, time. I think they take place. I want to say, is it 50 or 67, 52 years apart, right? So 52, is it 52? Yeah, 52 years apart. So just seeing the evolution of black people, right? Like me and Denise were having a conversation, and Stokely and Martin, Coretta, who is just as educated as Martin, is doing housework, and she's getting them in cornbread and all this other stuff. But by Nevaeh's brother, the sister has a job and the brother doesn't. You know, they both mentioned Ghana, how Martin Luther King's trip to Ghana affected him in 1957, but in 2019, a lot of black people were traveling back to Ghana because it was the year of the Great Return, and black people went. So and then there's lines in Stokely and Martin where Stokely says, a line he goes, the only liberation that a black man will ever experience is in his death. And then you see how that plays out in Nevaeh's brother.
Absolutely.
So like I mean, it helped that I wrote Nevaeh's brother, and that's something I should say. I wrote Nevaeh's brother in 2019 in the hospital, very upset, surrounded by police officers, and I was alone, and I was surrounded by police officers and men who were being in the hospital with handcuffs on. It was a weird, bizarre feeling, but I had to, for healing myself, I had to sit there alone.
Yeah.
And a lot of those lines came out of that experience, sitting there crying and putting that out. And yeah, for me, that's how it relates and talks about this time so strongly.
Absolutely. One of my favorite parts of watching the shows is in Act 2, seeing the echoes of the first act. It's like there are these echoes over time. And what they were talking about in Act 1, you see it all play out. It's like there's this theory and all this conversation that plays out in the future through the generations. Sandy, why is Stokely and Martin an important story to tell right now, and why should people come see it?
Well, I think one of the main things is that the historical part of it. We hear a lot about Dr. King, but you don't hear the nitty-gritty like this conversation. And as Najee was saying, how the play is very spiritual.
Yes.
I feel it in directing it. You call on whatever it is that you're calling on to help you tell the story the way the story should be told. And it's a conversation. And even though, like you said, he did take some liberties there's some fiction in it, but that conversation did happen.
Yes.
So, and to learn more about Dr. King, and I think a lot of people see Dr. King just one way. This opens up the door to see Dr. King in another light.
It does.
It really does. And I think that alone is a reason to come and see the show. I just learning more about him, his conversations, what he felt. Like, you don't really know a lot about. He wasn't a robot, and you know how he felt about injustice and being an activist. But you really get to know the man from Stokely and Martin, from the conversations, and he loved all of these men.
Yes.
They weren't just people that he shook their hands and that was it. He actually had a great fondness for all of them and trusted their opinions and wanted their opinions. So I think that alone is another reason why people should come and see the show.
Absolutely, and credit to you, Najee, for bringing that three-dimensionality to him, because I feel like we often only see one side of
Absolutely.
him, and he is glorified with very good reason, but seeing this human side of him, there's so much love and honest humanity in him in this play. So thank you for
and even the relationship with Coretta, you don't know about that. You don't hear about that. And that's one thing that's great about, another thing that's great about this is that I love is seeing Coretta. Yes, she's cooking and doing the things that women do.
Right.
But you see another side of their relationship, which of course the media and no one else wanted to talk about or did talk about. So I think Najee did a wonderful job of bringing that out in this play.
Yeah. Denise, why should people come and see Nevaeh's brother?
People should come and see Nevaeh's brother because in directing this, and it was spoke about in what we were saying, I really feel that this play brings out the humanity of the black man. There's a lot of misconceptions and stereotypes of what the black man is all about. And in this stereotypical world that we have, it takes the human part out of the black man. It takes the human part out of how they see us as people, that we are a family. I love the fact that it's him and his sister. They came from a two-family home, that they had a mother, that they cared for their dad, that there was interaction like everyone else. But in the underline and in that and the parts where he talks about they are angry.
Right.
And that talks about the feeling that every black person has. We live with a fear. We would live with a fear that is so strong that we would rather die than live. You know, and that is taken back way back even into slavery. There was a certain amount of people on the boat that jumped.
Jumped. Yep.
They jumped. So a lot of times we see sometimes with people and taking their lives as something that is depressing and something has to be wrong, but a lot of times it's a sense of freedom. There was a lot of slaves that denied the master and died
Yep.
because they'd rather be dead than not be free.
Right.
And the black man in this country lives in a prison and in a slavery that does not allow us to be free and does not allow us to be who we are. So this play does not glorify so much, but I feel that it humanizes the black man. It brings the black man down to the same level that when you see this play, it could be black, white, or anything.
That's what I was going to say. It doesn't
You know,
matter
and
the
but
color.
that's what makes it human.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what we forget is we're one race, we're the human race.
Exactly.
And when we divide it amongst color and amongst labels, which we love to do in this country, then racism and schisms come in.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
anytime that you can have a play very well written, I describe this play as a dance. It's a dance of words. There's music behind even the whole thing. There is a sweet music behind this play that you can only get by seeing it, by only being here.
Yep, you're right. There's a rhythm.
There's a rhythm.
that-
There's a rhythm and there's a
There
flow,
are
and it's
movements,
a beautiful combination from Stokely and Martin to here because things have not changed.
Right.
That was so beautifully said. And I'm also glad you mentioned the music because there is such beautiful music in this piece. The live singing is beautiful. I love the choices of the recorded music that's played and the live music that's sung. It's such a beautiful piece of the whole evening. Thank you, Denise.
It's like a well-made cake. You know?
It is. It
Thank you,
is.
Najee, for writing a
Yeah,
beautiful
absolutely.
he wrote a beautiful piece, no doubt.
Yeah. And Najee, why do you feel people should come out and see this?
All together,
Yeah, both pieces.
both pieces.
The evening.
Well, they should come to see both pieces. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
but for me, it's theater has this way of taking maybe the person that you disagree with the most and making you understand their point of view. And that's what I love because through the play, you're gonna fall in love with Brother. You're gonna fall in love with Nevaeh. You're gonna fall in love with Stokely. You're gonna fall in love with Martin. And it may be things that they say that you may disagree with, but when you see it on stage, you fall in love with the person, and it makes it easier for you to hear the point of views. And that's all it is. It's just different point of views coming together. If I can put these two plays together and name it one thing, it would be Black Nobility, Black Identity. And one thing to what Denise was saying is that the number one thing that was taken stripped from black people was our identity and our nobility. Coming from an atmosphere where we had our own civilization, our own gods, our own history, our own way of moving, and then just we came here and we're stripped away from our family members and stripped away from our culture and our land, and we have to redefine ourselves, right? Because we're being told you're nothing but this, you're nothing but that. Stokely is redefining himself as a noble person. He's re-identifying himself. The brother and Nevaeh's brother is re-identifying himself. You know, she's re-identifying herself, and that's the most beautiful thing about this. You're seeing the struggle with the identity. If you wanna keep someone down, you take away their identity. You take away their history. You take away their nobility. And that's anybody. That doesn't have to do with race. That happens across the board in this world, as we see that with poverty, right? But these people are reclaiming what was taken from them, and they're doing their own thing with it. And we may not disagree with the process, but they're dealing with it with what they had. And I think the world should see this. I think the world should hear it. I think the world should discuss it. Even if you disagree with it, just watch it and discuss it. You don't have to, I don't like that. I don't like what they're saying.
Yeah.
Just watch it and discuss
That's
it.
what-
It'd be
yeah.
great. Yeah, and I think and everyone has worked so hard to put this together. There's so many people behind the scenes that are doing such great work. So I'm very, very excited for this. One thing I have to say is, I don't know how long we got, but with the bus stop, the missing relationship, if you remember the bus stop, the missing relationship was the brother and
The
sister.
brothers.
So it was so important as a man. I have 4 younger siblings. As a person with 4 younger siblings, to show and express that love, that unconditional love that you have for your siblings, even when you disagree with them.
And one thing that's nice too about both productions is that you get lost. Like you come in and you know you're in a theater and you're going to watch
That's
a
true.
play.
Yeah.
After about 5 minutes, you forget all of your surroundings and you're listening to a real conversation that real
Yes.
people are having. It doesn't feel, do you know what I mean? Like
Correct,
a
yeah.
staged production. It's even, and with both
Yes.
shows, it's that way. You get lost in what's being said. You're hanging on every word, and you're waiting for the next one. And
Right.
how is this going to be resolved? And so that's a kudos to you with your writing.
There's always with the show, especially like Stokely Martin, there's a danger of it feeling like a history lesson or something, and
Right.
it is not.
It's not.
It's a real
Yeah.
time and place. It feels so real, and you're getting that history at the same time, but it's just a
Absolutely.
conversation
Yeah.
between real people.
Yeah, you're going through all the emotions.
Yeah.
You're gonna laugh a little. You're gonna cry
Cry
a
a
little.
little.
You know,
Yeah.
it's all the emotions in
Yeah.
2 hours.
And
it's
it's
wonderful.
what's needed in this time.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Coming out of 2020 and into 2021. It's needed.
Yep,
Correct.
absolutely. He's
Well,
right.
thank you, everyone. This was a fabulous conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you all for collaborating so beautifully on these pieces. It's a wonderful evening of theater. Please come and see Stokely and Martin and Nevaeh's brother. It's one evening of theater, 2 one-act plays, also available via live stream if you aren't comfortable coming into a theater right now. We do have very strict COVID policies, but we also have this show being live streamed. So it is running January 28th to March 21st. So we hope to see you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
you.